Hello folks, welcome to Untitled Chapter. Today we got this video on how to replace or install a 92 to a 94 Toyota Paseo into a cluster into a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel. And the thing is that these clusters change, they're different. The Paseo has the RPMs and the Tercel doesn't have the RPMs, so there's a little difference that makes the Paseo better cluster for the Tercel. So with that said, we're going to show you the procedure and how easy it is to replace it. Before we start, I want to give you an idea how this dash or cluster looks from the back. This is where the speedometer cable comes in. This is where it's going to be plugged in, 1, 2, and then it spreads out through this board, the power or whatever needs to be sent out, the signal throughout this. So this is one light bulb. These are the light bulbs, and to replace that light bulb, you just remove it like that, like a socket, and then put it back in like that. So in case you need to replace light bulbs on this dash on a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel or a 92 to a 94 Toyota Paseo, you're gonna learn how to do that too as well, because we're gonna remove it from there, replace it. So that's gonna require taking it away. So this is gonna be giving you an idea how to replace it. With that said, we're gonna start first disconnecting the battery, because we're gonna be dealing with wiring and we don't want to cause electrical problem. So disconnect the battery, and then we're gonna start taking everything apart. Okay folks, so we're gonna be having to remove the steering wheel to expose the dash or the cluster, because the steering wheel is gonna be on the way when we pull it out. So with that, I'm gonna show you, and we have another video about this, and we're gonna leave you the link below for how to remove the steering wheel or how to replace it. But that's gonna show you how to take it off. We're gonna show a little bit of the steps so you get an idea how to remove it throughout this process. But there's gonna be another video about this so you can understand better what's going on with the steering wheel. But let's get started. So we have removed the airbag. So now what we're going to take is this nut that secures the steering wheel to the column, the shaft. And so we take that off, and then we pull the pulley and pull the steering wheel off. Okay folks, so once we remove the steering wheel, we got to remove this plastic and this plastic that covers the steering column after the steering wheel. And for that, we got to remove 4 screws. Phillips 1, 2, 3, 4. So we remove all those 4, and this shelf will split and we can remove it. 4 Phillips screws that came out of the bottom of this shelf. And if you don't know where they came out, once you split this, you can match them by hand and see where they go, so you can remember. So when you're putting it back on, you don't strip the threads, because 2 are fine and 2 are more coarse threads. So now we have to split these plastics. Okay folks, so there's 2 screws. We haven't removed the top shelf on this, but there's 1 Phillips screw and another Phillips screw right about this area on the top. You gotta remove those so we can remove this plastic that is covering the edge of the cluster, and also remove this plastic piece or this button that is the dimmer. You just pull it from here, just pull it away. So at this point folks, what you can do is you can just pull this middle piece plastic. We haven't taken the middle shelf off, but we can pull our plastic away and it comes around this shelf, there's a dimmer and there's a hazardous light. You gotta undo this nut here and disconnect the hazards so this plastic come out. So now we have removed the steering wheel. We are ready at the point where we're about to take the cluster off. But we want to show you something. This is the dimmer. So we took the nut off and it stayed by itself. We didn't have to disconnect it. But on the side of the flasher or the hazardous lights, when you have this in the little piece, the plastic which is sitting right about here, when you're pulling it away and you fit your hand behind it, what you're looking for is for this tab on the top. You push it down and it releases this, but you'll have your plastic with it, so you don't want to pull it too far because you will never undo it. You want to get your hand behind the plastic where you can see and look for this tab. That's why we're showing you this. So to remove the cluster, we have to remove that Phillips screw, this other Phillips screw, and that Phillips screw or 8mm socket we can use. So that will get your cluster to start splitting away from the dash. And remember, pull these down so you got more space when we're pulling that away. Okay folks, at this point we can pull our dash, our cluster is loose, but we can't pull it too far because we got the one connector right about here and one connector right about here, and we got our speedometer cable right about here. So we're gonna show you on the other one where we're looking at. So we're looking at the back of that one, but this is the paseo, the speedometer cable, one connector here, which is temperature gas side in the back, and there's one here which is the right on top of the speedometer. So there's two connectors, one, two, and then the speedometer cable. So we can take it off. Okay folks, so I never done this before on this Tercel. So what I did is that there's two connectors, what I was saying, driver side, passenger side, as you're looking at the car from the driver side. So this goes to the right and this goes to the left on the back of the cluster. So what you're looking for is that you first gotta disconnect this. This is the cable for the speedometer, and to do that you gotta you're looking for this tab, this. So as you push, it lifts from the front and it releases from the cluster. So this won't come out. So once you undo that, these cables can come all the way out here, so you can work these outside easier. So don't worry about the cables first. Worry about undoing the cluster speedometer cable first. Once you undo that, then you can pull it away, and then you can look for these tabs. You push down and this little lock will release, and then you pull it off. That's one leg, and this is the other leg on the cable. So you push down and then pull away so it comes off from the back of the dash from there. And there's this, see that groove where it locks in? There's the groove where it locks in, so you gotta pull and then pull away for the cable to release. Okay folks, so we're looking at the cluster from the Tercel, the connector, and the paseo, same. Tercel, paseo, same. speedometer cable, same as the Tercel. So all of it is almost the same except for a few light bulbs that changes from location from the Paseo or the Tercel. So now we'll spin them around. This is the cluster from the Tercel. This is from the Paseo. So we're gonna put in the Paseo, and then before we put everything back as it used to be, we're gonna try it and see if it works. So we start connecting our cluster back in. The blue one goes in the passenger side, and the white one connector goes in the driver's side. So we put those back in, and then we'll work on the cable. Okay, folks. So we got all the lights working on the dash. We got the warning lights. We got the battery oil pressure. We got the temperature gauge going up. We got the fuel working. So we're gonna start up the car. There's the RPMs working, and then we're gonna turn signal to the right, to the left, lights on, high beams. And then we're gonna be doing the hazardous lights. We press the button. We have to connect it, otherwise the turn signals wouldn't work. So this guy has to be connected for the turn signals to work, otherwise they won't work. So there it is, everything's working fine. So now what we have to do is we have everything plugged in. We're gonna turn off the car, and we're gonna be putting the speedometer cable back on, and that we're gonna start putting everything back on, the screws and the plastics. So now what we do, we put the screws on the bottom of the cluster and on the top, the one on the top. So now what we have to do is we have to put this plastic in, but before that we put the top shelf of the steering column. So we put it on, and there it is. Now we put the plastic that goes around. Now we put the dimmer switch on, and we not tighten it down. We connect our switch on the flashers. We can push this plastic back in and then set it, and then we can screw it to the dash. Now that we have tightened down that plastic that goes around the cluster where the flasher button is held on and the dimmer switch is held on as well, we gotta put the knob. So now we can put the bottom piece of the shelf of this, the column, and tie it down to it with the 4 screws that we took off. And well, folks, we have installed the dash, the plastics that go around it. We have installed the dimmer button. We pretty much put everything back together. We put the 2 shelves that cover the ignition switch with a column. So now all we have left to do is put the steering wheel and put the airbag, and then we should be ready to test it with everything back on. So there it is, folks. Everything's back on. The steering wheel, airbag, dash, everything back to normal. So we're gonna turn on the car and work everything. Well, folks, we have the temperature gauge working properly, RPMs, they just need to come down a little bit. Everything is working normal. So wanted to show you the gauge, temperature gauge was the last one to show some readings and is doing it. So just wanted to share this, how 92 to a 94 cluster can be installed in a 91 to a 94 Toyota Tercel. And well, folks, I wanted to show you what kind of tools we use. We use the ratchet, the extension, the 90mm socket for the nut on the steering wheel, and but to get there we have to use the T30 socket to remove the airbag, and the flat screwdriver we used it on to removing those plastics, the covers, to get access to the bolts. And then we use the Phillips screwdriver on most of the screws. So there's only two sockets that we need, the T30 and the 90mm. Those are the only two. And then once we use that, we use the steering wheel extractor kit. And this is what I got. I paid like $20 for this, or $15 for this. And then we use the adjustable wrench to spin the pulley or the steering wheel puller shaft. So that's what we use, the adjustable wrench. So I wanted to give you an image of what we use to remove the cluster and replace it. And you don't need much tools. All you need is just these are the most basic tools that we use for it. So give you an idea of what tools you might need for just to replace the cluster. And well, folks, I hope you have enjoyed this video and you find this video informative as well, and how to replace or do your next project on your Tercel on replacing your cluster. And like I said, the hardest part about this job is finding the cluster to put on your Tercel from a paseo. And if you like this video, well, give us a thumbs up, and I will see you soon with more videos here in el canal del Chano Jose.